Hello to all of my favorite people and welcome back to the stream. It is Wednesday, November 15th. I blinked and half of the month of November just disappeared, by the way. So that's insane. I cannot believe we are literally like moments away from 2024. It feels like we've been talking about 2024 forever, and now it is literally on our front doorstep. Chat, I cannot be the only person feeling like I literally blinked and this year completely got away from me. If anybody feels the same way, let me know, because I feel just like no time has passed, but all of the time has passed since COVID. Anybody else just feel like we're in this weird time warp where everything and nothing is simultaneously happening all at the same time or in no time? Wow, what an existential way to open the stream today. You guys, I'm so excited to be live with you and really pumped to get right into the meat and potatoes of exactly what we're going to talk about today. This is a crazy story, and if you haven't heard it already, it's probably for a reason, because the media is doing absolutely everything they can to get us to focus on the shiny thing over here and not the real story behind the scenes, kind of like what we talked about yesterday with declining fertility rates in America, but this time talking about regulation of the internet. We got a lot of really good stuff to get into today, and I'm excited to jump into it with each and every one of you. But first, do me a huge favor and hit the like button on this stream wherever you are watching. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Getter, and Locals, so do me a huge favor and smash that like button. It might look like a little thumbs up or a little heart depending on where you're watching, and more importantly, most importantly, smash that follow or subscribe button wherever you guys are watching. If you're new around here or newish in general, I am a totally independent creator, which means there will be no multi-zillion-dollar media company telling me what to say or what to put here on the stream. This is all what you see is what you get from things that I am seeing around the world and my personal hot takes on everything happening on the internet. But because of that, we grow at a lot slower pace. So every single time you guys can help us subscribe or follow to any of these channels, it means the absolute world, and liking these streams certainly helps us get picked up in the algorithm wherever we are. We've already got some great viewership, and I'm going to say hi to some people in our chat. So if you guys haven't already said hello, please do so right over there, and don't forget to use the chat throughout our entire conversation today so I can see what you guys are thinking about all of this, and if I'm just reading way too much into things, or maybe there's a lot more to the story that we need to be unpacking. Over on YouTube, let's kick things off today. Martha and Franklin are both watching from across the pond. Hello to our British friends. We love you so very much and glad you are here. Brenda, Justin, and Lil Big Mick are watching. We've got Amanaga, I hope I'm saying that right, over on YouTube. Brenda, James, come on, Brian are all joining us today. We've got Dale tuning in. You guys, I love seeing all of your beautiful names pop up. Over on Rumble, Franklin, John Best, and Craven are watching. We've got Tim tuning in. Hello, Tim. Great to see you. My Quillwin is back. Happy Mars. Good afternoon to you. Captain 8-Ball and more. Nitty Witty and Renata are kicking things off for us in our Getter chat, and over on Locals, Alex, Emrock, Johnny Diamond, Xanthi, we've got African Warlord tuning in. Alex, you just made me have a minor heart attack because you told me Thanksgiving is next week. Next week! I can't. I'm gonna have to like McConnell for a moment and just take it all in. I have a lot to share with you guys about our schedule between now and the end of the year as well, because everybody has really crazy travel schedules and work schedules, and the holidays definitely impact some things. So we're going to talk about our streaming schedule at the end of the stream for the rest of November and some of December, including some really fun surprises that I've had planned for you guys for a very long time. So stick around to the end to talk about that. But in the meantime, let's jump right into everything that I want to talk about today. You guys might have noticed, if you are present or active at all on X, I refuse to call this X, so we're going to keep calling it Twitter, that Nikki Haley did an appearance with Fox News this week that is really upsetting a lot of people on the internet, and frankly, rightfully so. Nikki Haley gave this interview with Fox News about her updated platform as a presidential candidate for the United States this week, saying that one of the first things she wants to do as president is have social media companies expose their algorithms to at least the government, but probably the American people. And while she has me on that part, I think that algorithm transparency is quite important. We've talked about that at length here on the stream, especially with our buddy Joe Bob, who comes on usually every Friday. I'm totally in support of algorithm transparency, but then she ends up going one step further that made a whole lot of people, conservatives, liberals, independents, everybody in the middle, very upset because she suggested that you should not be allowed at all under any circumstances to be anonymous on the internet, essentially wanting to enforce some sort of digital ID system mandated for the internet, regulating the internet on her first day as president of the United States. But don't take my word for it. Here's what she had to say herself.
When I get into office, the first thing we have to do, social media accounts, social media companies, they have to show America their algorithms. Let us see why they're pushing what they're pushing.
And again, she has me there. First thing that I want to do when I'm in office is to make social media companies show us their algorithms. Let us have some transparency into your algorithms. Let's just see why you're pushing what you push. You know what? I'm okay with that. That's a type of regulation that even me as a very limited government person would be pretty comfortable with. But then she very quickly starts to lose me.
The second thing is every person on social media should be verified by their name.
That doesn't mean, by the way, verified like the little blue check mark when you get a certain number of followers or you're actually a public figure and people are trying to impersonate you on the internet. She doesn't mean verified in like the cool, awesome mom, I made it way. She means verified based on your actual identity, probably using your driver's license, your passport, your ID from the government.
That's, first of all, it's a national security threat. When you do that, all of a sudden people have to stand by what they say, and it gets rid of the Russian bots, the Iranian bots, and the Chinese bots.
When you make people, force people to say who they are on the internet, when you essentially dox everyone on the internet, if you want to think about it that way, it gets rid of bots, allegedly. I don't actually think that would get rid of bots, at least based on my own experience with bots on the internet. Craven agrees in our Rumble chat. I don't think this would ever stop the bots. I think this would actually increase the bots in some capacity. But I don't know how much of a truly conservative value mandating that you share your personal information down to your address. I mean, if you're trying to verify people's identity, typically what that would look like on a social media page is making people take a picture of their driver's license or their passport where your address is, like everything about your personal information is there, to send it to these companies that we already don't really trust to make sure you are who you say you are.
And then you're going to get some civility when people know their name is next to what they say.
I don't know about that. I think that's a very outdated take to assume people are going to be more civil towards you on the internet simply because they know that you're a real person. Girl, you should read my DMs is all I'm going to say about that. I am very clearly a real person. I am a verified user on social media with the blue check marks and the verification of my identity as a public figure. If you think that people all of a sudden are going to be a lot kinder to you because they know that you are a real person rather than a bot, I don't know that that's going to have the consequence you think it will.
Accountability. And they know their pastor and their family members going to see it. It's going to help our kids and it's going to help our country.
When you know your pastor and that person's family members are going to see it, I don't know about that. I actually think that would motivate people to be a whole lot worse on the internet because you know that your message is landing with a real person and is going to be seen by their family and is going to get a rise out of people. But what really bothers me is this like verification of your identity thing. That doesn't just stop at your name. As I mentioned, that's probably you sharing your ID card with these companies that we already don't really trust anyway on platforms that we already know they sell your data to China and to Russia. And no, I'm not talking about TikTok. I'm talking about Meta, Instagram and Facebook. I'm talking about Twitter. I'm talking about YouTube. American-based companies who have been caught with their pants down selling your personal information that you already have uploaded to these platforms to foreign countries. Where's the concern about data security now? Oh yeah, That's right. I forgot. You're not actually interested in data security, despite what you may say until your face turns blue about wanting to ban TikTok. No, you're actually interested in making sure that you, as the government of America, have control, entire unilateral control over American social media companies who will just bend over every single time that you ask them to. This is not about keeping you safe. This is not about increasing civility on social media. And it's certainly not about getting rid of bots or helping our kids. This is about controlling, choking what information you have access to as a free citizen of the United States of America, free to look things up or follow whoever you want. And this applies to you guys watching in Europe as well. As a citizen living in a free country, able to access the information that you want to voluntarily seek out. If this really was about data security, I highly doubt Nikki Haley would be A, pushing to ban TikTok, but not any other social media platform. We talk about this all the time. But B, would be asking you to send a picture of your driver's license or your passport to Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. I mean, Alex drops in our chat, does she want my social security number also, or just my address? Literally, like, how are you going to verify the identity of real people on the internet to make sure every single person is in fact a real person? I literally cannot wrap my head around this, but this actually isn't the only time that Nikki Haley has made a suggestion like this. I thought that it was when I first saw this clip, so I thought this was a brand new suggestion that everybody was like losing their minds over, rightfully so. Rather, she actually made a very similar suggestion on a podcast a few months ago on the campaign trail as well. So let's take a look at that.
They need to verify every single person on their outlet and I want it by name.
By name. Just to be clear, again, as somebody who had to go through the actual verification process before Instagram just said you can pay for it the same way that Twitter did, as somebody who had to go through the actual verification process on Instagram, when you are a public figure and you need the blue check mark next to your name because people will start impersonating you or whatever, when that happens, you actually have to send a picture of your ID in some capacity, your driver's license, your passport, etc., to these companies to verify who you are. Also, I completely locked my fiance out, so you guys watch this clip while I go rescue him because he's texting me in a frenzy. Watch this.
Need to verify every single person on their outlet and I want it by name. Because when
what about Smug? Does he qualify?
I've provided them with my government.
If Smug is on your driver's license, then, and look, you can put Smug in parentheses, but I want everybody's name.
Okay, one more time. Let's just watch that again because this woman has been very clear from the beginning. She doesn't really care about your data privacy. Listen very carefully.
They need to verify every single person on their outlet and I want it by name. Because when
what about Smug? Does he qualify?
I've provided them with my government.
If Smug is on your driver's license, then, and look, you can put Smug.
So she admits driver's license too.
Smug in parentheses, but I want everybody's name.
I want everybody's name verified by the CEOs of these companies. Son of Wisdom just dropped in our Getter chat. Her plan is to dox everyone, and it's the social media version of going to a cashless society. How is this any different at all from what the left wants to do? Meanwhile, how is this caring about your data security in some capacity at all, in any capacity? These people are lying to you. That's just the nicest possible way that I can say that. They don't care about your private information being sold. They just want to make sure that they get to decide when it gets sold and who it gets sold to. They don't care that your personal email address might be accessed by the CCP because they want you to send your home address to Meta and to X and to Google to then be sent to the CCP at their own bequest. What these people are really concerned about is your ability to freely research whatever you want, to look things up on your own time, based on your own passions and who your own perspectives happen to align with, or even to challenge your own perspectives and to seek truth free from government intervention. That's what these people care about. And what they want to do is end that practice entirely. I really genuinely have come to the conclusion that these people are so passionate about banning TikTok, not because of what the content on that platform actually is. If you spent 5 minutes on TikTok, you probably would be shocked how much pro-independence, pro-conservatism, pro-family, pro-faith content is actually present on the platform, probably just because of the sheer number of people that use it every single day. But I've come to the conclusion that they are so serious about banning TikTok because it's the easiest place for us to find information today. Brock told me something, my fiance, a couple weeks ago that I ended up going and verifying myself that just honestly shocked me in all of the best ways, but I'm surprised nobody is talking about this. For Generation Z, TikTok has replaced Google as our number one search engine. Can you just try to wrap your head around that for a second? The phrase Google it is going out of style, will not be in vogue for Generation Z because we don't Google it when we want to find a restaurant recommendation or when we want to hear about what happened at the presidential debate last night. We TikTok it. We search it on TikTok because we'd rather have a short, easy, sweet to understand short form video that's going to tell us everything that we could have found instead of scrolling through endless search results on Google. I'm sick and tired of Nikki Haley, of Tim Scott, of Donald Trump, of Chris Christie, of all of these people running for president, not to mention the left, they do the exact same thing, trying to use China as a scapegoat for what they really want to accomplish, and that is trying to know every single thing that you do on the internet, and then trying to control every single thing that you do on the internet beyond being aware of it. Because the truth is, this is where society exists today. It is. You can go to school on this or on the computer screen that you guys might be watching on. You have your job on this or on the computer screen that you guys might be watching on. This is where we shop. This is where we bank. This is where we get our news and our information. This is where we share things with our friends and family. This is where we research things and find out truth. The modern public square of society happens to be on the internet. And I think our politicians, most of whom, no offense, are of a generation that don't really know how to use the internet properly, or at least most effectively as possible. They're so uncomfortable with a younger generation having access to all the information in the history of the world at our fingertips, and they cannot bear the idea of somewhat letting go of the control that they have worked so hard for the last several decades to amass, that the only solution for them is just to try to regulate and demonize every single thing that our generation does. We're a threat to them when we have more information, when we can seek out diverse opinions and diverse points of views, when citizen journalism, honest journalism, is overtaking the propaganda-filled mainstream fake news. We are a threat to the establishment individuals on both sides of the political aisle, Republican, Democrat, or anything in between, that have been involved in politics longer than the time that I have been alive. Our current president of the United States has been involved in Washington politics longer than twice the time that I have been alive at 26 years old. And if that doesn't send a shudder up your spine, particularly when it comes to people who don't understand how Wi-Fi works, wanting to regulate all of your activities on the internet in the modern public square, it should. It should terrify you. Interestingly, there was an interesting tweet that came across while I was scrolling about this story with Nikki Haley, and I didn't even know that this was happening. So just goes to show you how much the media is trying to shut us out of being self-aware and seeking out the right information about current events, while we're all distracted by Nikki Haley being insane and trying to dox everyone on the internet with this idea of digital verification of every single person on social media. Today, the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, is voting on Joe Biden's new equity plan for the internet. And I'm sure you guys caught that little buzzword there in the midst of that title, the equity plan for the internet, which should make you at least pause and think, what's really going on here? Because whenever the word equity is used in politics, it probably isn't actually for the purpose of equity. It's probably for the purpose of advancing excessive authoritarianism. In this case and every other case, you would be right. So while the entire internet and all of the mainstream media is saying Nikki Haley's plan is so crazy, you should be paying attention to this, here's the shiny thing for you to focus on. Here's what's really going on behind the scenes today that should absolutely terrify you. Let me get this video down because I got to pull this up. Here we go. While everyone is being distracted by @Nikki Haley being an absolute lunatic and trying to dox every person on the internet, inversionism tweeted, the FCC is having a vote today, it's for November 15th. This was put out November 14th, on Biden's, quote, equity plan for the internet that would give them effective control of all internet services and infrastructure in the whole country. Just as a general context for those of you who might not live in the United States or you might not understand the huge balloon bureaucracy that is the executive branch of the United States government, the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, is not regulated by Congress. They're funded by Congress, but they fall immediately under the President of the United States. They are only subject to the whims, desires, wishes, and agendas of the executive branch, the President of the United States. Meaning there is absolutely no accountability from the FCC by the American people for us to take action based on what decisions they make while they are in appointed office. Terrifying. This would, I keep clicking on the wrong thing. This would allow them control to enact insane policies such as this and other totalitarian controls that will lead to certainly more draconian censorship. The text of this order expressly provides that the FCC would be empowered for the first time ever to regulate each and every internet service provider's network infrastructure deployment, network reliability, network upgrades, network maintenance, customer premises equipment, and installation. Call me novice on this issue because I am. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on the internet. But those of you who might be better techies than myself, isn't that every single possible thing for an ISP, for an internet service provider? Network infrastructure deployment, network reliability, network upgrades, network maintenance, customer premises equipment, and installation. So when Comcast, Xfinity now, comes to install the Wi-Fi router at your house, the FCC and Joe Biden would have complete jurisdiction over that? What else? B, speeds, capacities, latencies, data caps, throttling, pricing, promotional... Pricing? Okay, let's just stop there for a second. Promotional rates, imposition of late fees, but I thought the Biden administration was going to end all of our junk fees. I guess not. Opportunity for equipment rental, installation time, contract renewal terms, service termination terms, and use of customer credit and account history. So, the executive branch, the White House, Joe Biden, through the FCC, today is voting on complete jurisdiction, the government seizing complete jurisdiction on how much your Wi-Fi costs, if you're even eligible to have a new contract. God forbid you tweet something that was critical of this government. No contract renewal for you. The use of your credit and account history, so they want to tap into your credit cards and how much you're actually paying your internet bill. And C, it doesn't end there. Mandatory arbitration clauses. So they want to take you to court through your use of the internet. That's what that means. Pricing, deposits, discounts, customer service, language options, credit checks, of course, because they want to know exactly how much you're worth, marketing or advertising, contract renewal, upgrades, account termination, transfers to another entity, and service suspension. So they'll just cut your internet off because the government would now have the right to do that if this does indeed pass. Good luck researching how to buy a gun on the internet. how to adhere to your Second Amendment rights. Good luck researching alternative healthcare options for your child. Good luck researching how to homeschool your kid instead of sending them to a government indoctrination camp, aka public school here in the United States. Good luck buying a t-shirt that says Joe Biden falls down the stairs or something so stupid, right? I mean, this is the really insane aspect of this that I think people don't even realize. If you don't follow the rules and we can just make up whatever rules we want whenever we want to, the government, but not even the people you directly voted for, unelected bureaucrats appointed by Joe Biden, would have the right to instantly suspend your internet service. Goodbye to my stream, I guess. But it gets worse, this tweet says. The FCC reserves the right under this plan to regulate both actions and omissions, whether recurring or a single instance. In other words, if you take any action, you may be liable, and if you do nothing, you may be liable. There is no path to complying with this standardless regime. It reads like a planning document drawn up in the faculty lounge of a university's Soviet studies department. So let me just try to unpack this in my mind. If you don't post the black square, the government could turn your internet off. If you don't use the hashtag Free Palestine or hashtag I support Hamas, you won't have the internet anymore. If you don't post your 25th jab update, I got vaxxed, you won't have the internet anymore. But also, if you actively post anything that goes against the regime, you won't have the internet anymore. This is this. I've had to keep this book on my desk for the last several months because I reference it almost every single day. This is the ministry of truth. This is the government unilaterally deciding what even truth is. Good luck questioning anything. And it's all happening behind the scenes today without a vote from Congress, without a press conference about it, without KJP having to defend this in front of the media, who certainly will suffer from this. Good luck with the mainstream media being able to post anything on the internet on their own websites, let alone on social media that's critical of anything the government has ever said or done. None of this is happening in front of people. Instead, we're all focusing on, oh, boo-hoo, Nikki Haley said something bad. And that is bad. We should be paying attention to that. But awfully convenient timing talking about regulating the internet while the internet is actively being regulated right before our very eyes. Interestingly, a couple of weeks ago, the Gazette published this piece, republished this piece from the Washington Examiner. The FCC commissioner, the person that would oversee all of this insanity that we just... My goodness, I keep clicking the wrong thing. Sorry, it is a caffeine deficient day. Everything that we just talked about is under the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. Interestingly, the guy that Biden appointed to run the FCC thinks that this equity plan for internet control is sweeping, unprecedented, and unlawful. So Brendan Carr, the FCC commissioner, this guy, is saying that this is an unlawful power grab for the government to even remotely suggest this happen, let alone be actively voting on it. Well, of course it's an unlawful power grab when in the documents themselves, we're talking about the government unilaterally having the right to suspend service to your internet for any reason that they deem necessary, the government having unilateral discretion to run credit checks or view your account history or start working on renewal terms for your contract for the internet. We're talking about the government having unilateral, unelected jurisdiction over the installation of the Wi-Fi router in your home. Notice how they say installation, which insinuates, I don't know, spying on you from your house. I don't know what that could mean. Installing extra equipment that you really need. Of course, this is an unlawful power grab, but even the bureaucrat that would be tasked with overseeing this is saying that Biden's digital equity plan for the internet is an unlawful power grab. So I'm very, very curious to see where this vote goes forward from here, because I honestly don't know how this passes with the FCC commissioner saying that he is not particularly in favor of this, but let's see what his actual statement does say. He said, President Biden's plan hands the administrative state effective control of all internet services and infrastructure in the country. Never before in the roughly 40-year history of the public internet has the FCC or any federal agency claimed this degree of control over it. Indeed, President Biden's plan calls for the FCC to apply a far-reaching set of government controls that the agency has not applied to any technology in the modern era. This was his statement that he released on Monday. He previewed an important FCC vote that's happening today about whether or not to implement the president's plan. Like I just said, Brendan Carr ends up affirming Congress never contemplated any of this sweeping regulatory regime that President Biden asked the FCC to adopt, let alone authorized the agency to implement it. So this is all coming directly from President Biden's Oval Office. There is no involvement from lawmakers and no input from the American people on this plan whatsoever. He explained that the Biden administration's broadband policies are failing and that the costs of building internet infrastructure in this country have skyrocketed due to his economic policies. Shocking. Welcome to the club, Joe Biden. While the FCC has been looking to expand new 5G services, it has needlessly blocked and delayed new broadband infrastructure bills because of regulatory red tape. You think we have red tape now? Just wait till Joe Biden has unilateral jurisdiction over the entire internet. The commissioner said President Joe Biden has chosen to blame the private sector and free market capitalism itself for the administration's own policy shortfalls and is pushing the FCC to adapt a one-page section of the 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which has new rules of breathtaking scope, all in the name of digital equity. For the first time ever, the FCC commissioner says, those rules would give the federal government a roving mandate to micromanage nearly every aspect of how the internet functions, from how internet service providers allocate capital and where they build, to the services that consumers can purchase. If you can even purchase anything at all, from the profits that ISPs can realize and how they market and advertise services, to the discounts and promotions that consumers can receive. Talk about central planning, he warned. If passed, the FCC would be empowered for the first time ever to regulate every ISP's service termination terms, use of customer credit, account history, credit checks, and account termination, among many other items. There is no path to complying with this standardless regime. It reads like a planning document drawn up by the faculty lounge of a university's Soviet Studies department. He added, the Biden administration's plan empowers the FCC to regulate every aspect of the internet sector for the first time ever. The plan is motivated by an ideology of government control that is not compatible with the fundamental precepts of free market capitalism. In other words, we don't like capitalism. We've been incredibly clear to you that we don't like capitalism. What's the opposite of capitalism? Communism, socialism, complete government control. Government seizing the means of control, seizing the means of production, and overseeing everything in the supposedly private sector that now will really just be a public sector. Essentially, they are turning us into Soviet-era Russia. They're turning us into China, the Communist Party. Also hilarious to me, by the way, that the vote on this is happening today while who happens to be meeting with Biden in San Francisco? Ironically, the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party, President Xi Jinping. Coincidence? I think not. The guy from The Incredibles. I'm just saying there are way too many similarities between all of this stuff for people not to at least raise an eyebrow. The former FCC policy advisor to this administration, or he might have been for Trump, I can't remember, said to call, if I click on this wrong link one more time, I'm going to punch myself in the face. This is just how passionate I am about this. To call it extreme or radical does not do this proposal justice. Biden is turning digital discrimination into a pretext for regulating everything for supposed equity. So, in other words, we're screwed. So much for speaking out against the Restrict Act. So much for calling your member of Congress and lobbying to make sure that a new Patriot Act for the digital age doesn't have the opportunity to pass. So much for trying to speak up for your favorite social media platforms, despite all of the stupid lies about data security that all of your favorite politicians are saying on the debate stage. So much for independent internet, independent content creators, independent shows. So much for any of that. Our executive branch today is attempting to seize control of the entire public square for the modern age without any congressional oversight, without any judicial review, and certainly without any input from the American people. They want control. Nikki Haley wants control, but she doesn't want it to the degree that Joe Biden is attempting to seize it today. And I find it awfully coincidental that everybody's trying to get us to focus on Nikki Haley's opinion here on Fox News, which is bad. And I'm very clear about that. It's a bad opinion. While behind the scenes, with no press conference, with no media input whatsoever, at least from mainstream cable news, and while everyone's watching the president of China visit us in San Francisco, a quiet vote is happening behind the scenes to determine whether or not to turn the United States of America into a communist country. It's a very, very scary reality when we start realizing what these people are actually trying to accomplish in the background. This isn't about progress. It's not about equity. It's not even about internet regulation. It's not even about the internet in the grand scheme of things. They say that it is, but it's not. This is about turning the last supposedly free country once and for all on the face of the planet into a communist regime. And if the United States of America falls, if individual freedom falls, I don't know where the rest of the world goes forward from here. I'm getting an update from Odysseus in our Rumble chat. The FCC approved it today. Can somebody fact check that for me? Hopefully the Supreme Court overturns it. This needs a legal challenge. That's what Odysseus just said in our chat. Let's look it up. Let's Google it for ourselves, because if so, I don't know if I'll have a stream for much longer, to be completely honest with you. 1 hour ago, FCC approves rules to prevent digital discrimination in a 3-2 vote. Oh boy, this is from the markup. In a 3-2 vote on November 15th, the Federal Communications Commission passed rules that represent a historic step towards closing the digital divide. Yeah, okay. This is not about equity. It passed. It passed. That makes me feel freaking great about everything. Let's read what Fox News has to say about this. No, they're just sharing the old statements from the former. 44 minutes ago, ABC News. FCC adopts rules to eliminate, quote, digital discrimination for communities with poor internet access. Again, this is not about equity. One bit. 3-2 vote. The order provides a framework for the FCC to crack down on a range of digital inequities. Who is buying this for any minute of this, including the disparities in the investment of services for different neighborhoods, as well as the, quote, digital divide, a term experts use to describe complete lack of internet access many communities experience due to regional or socioeconomic inequality. That's so cute. So in other words, they're claiming that this is about helping people who don't have access to the internet to have access to the internet. But what this plan actually does is ensure that people who already have access to the internet and are using it to complain about the regime will have it taken away. I don't even know what else to say about this. This absolutely needs a legal challenge, M-Rock says in our locals chat. I sure hope it gets one, because if in fact this is enacted, this plan is enacted, let alone approved, it's already been approved, but if this is enacted, goodbye to freedom of speech. Forever. It will all be over. But let's assume for a second that it does get challenged and something like this is able to be stopped. I clicked on the wrong link 20,000 times, so you guys have already seen clips of this video. I'm stupid. It's fine. Let's just let it go. Something that I've really loved this week about the whole conversation related to data security and the internet has been one presidential candidate in particular using social media as it was intended to be used, to be a real person, to be truly authentic, and to draw attention to his campaign in a really positive, uplifting, and fun new generational way. And that's been Vivek Ramaswamy. He was incredibly supportive of an open and free internet, including the use of TikTok as a presidential candidate on the presidential debate stage here in Miami last week. And right after the debate, he linked up with one of the biggest creators on TikTok, who has about 10 million followers, just to be a real human being. Watch this.
Today I learned to surf. That's presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. Today, teaching him how to surf.
So after the debate, we picked him up from this super yacht in Miami, and now it's time to get him standing up on a surfboard. So first, I taught him some of the basics, and then it was time for his first attempt. And after just a couple of attempts, he was already able to stand.
You're up, you want it to shift like this, holding a rope. Yeah. Do that, let's master that first.
For someone who's never surfed before, it was crazy how fast he was able to learn. So now that he's comfortable, we decided to step things up a notch by getting our business suits on and surfing in his natural habitat. And if this goes viral, we'll do something even crazier to warm up for his next debate.
Will do something even crazier to warm up for his next debate. Then he went out of his way to make a video from the car on the campaign trail to defend even further his use of TikTok.
Which I don't think it's a sin for young people to use TikTok. My point is actually most young people are using.
You probably heard a lot of the other Republican boneheaded politicians bashing TikTok on the debate stage yet again. For some reason, they think that it makes for a convenient punching bag to come after me for being on this platform. They're fools. The reality is the Republican Party's going nowhere unless we reach young voters where they actually are.
Correct. Sound the bells, people. I could not have said that better myself. The Republican Party is going absolutely nowhere unless we're willing to reach people where they actually are. Sounds like something I would have said.
I pointed out that as one of the other candidates on that stage, Nikki Haley, was criticizing me and sanctimoniously preaching against TikTok, she didn't even know that one of her own adult daughters was actually on it. But the funny part is I wasn't criticizing her daughter, I was criticizing Nikki Haley for being on the wrong side of a generational divide.
The wrong side of a generational divide. That is beautifully stated.
Our country used to be a country of winners, but the Republican Party has become a party of losers, repeatedly losing election time and again. So yes, it's going to take a leader from a different generation to lead us to win.
Could not have said that better myself. And I think it's so encouraging and so inspiring to see younger people get it, right? This isn't about the lies about your data security. These people don't actually care about your data security. And Vivek made that very clear on the debate stage when he said if this was really about data, they would be upset about Airbnb selling your private information to the CCP or any other social media platform. But they're not. They just want to control the internet. They're very clear about that. I love seeing a presidential candidate just be a real human being. I talked about this on our new live call-in show that I co-host with Dave Rubin today when we also reacted to that same clip of him surfing here in Miami. I know it's not actual surfing, people, but it's basically the closest thing you can get in South Florida. The waves aren't big enough. He's a real person, right? He fell down and he's learning something new and he's challenging himself and he's fit and fun and likes to get outside and be a real person with hobbies and interests and passions. He's not a drone talking head that only can operate within the square box of a television interview with a tie that's way too tight and pre-rehearsed talking points that were handed to him by a lobbying firm that paid zillions of dollars in order to have him run for president. There's something about the authenticity that social media provides on the media side that I'm really encouraged is seeping into the world of politics as well. I think it's really important now more than ever that we really seriously consider who we want our leaders in society to be. It's not just who we want to be the president of the United States or who do we think would make the best senator, but leaders across the board. Who is a real person? Who is going to get it? How we consume information, how we share information, and where people actually are. Who can speak a language that the American people speak and understand as consumers and as creators, rather than trying to get everyone else to conform to the whims, and not even whims, flat out demands of an authoritarian regime that we currently have in the White House. It's time for a massive shakeup in the United States of America, because if we don't, the sad reality is, whether it's Biden's FCC plan, hopefully never going into actual effect, although it has been approved, or if it's Nikki Haley saying we should dox every person on the internet by mandating they provide digital ID to even use social media, or it's the passage of the Restrict Act, which has been endorsed by almost every single member of Congress from both the Republican and Democrat Party, we are headed full-barreled straight for an authoritarian, totalitarian regime in 2024. We are. If any of the status quo individuals happen to be back in Washington in any capacity, that's where we're headed. And we're already there today, it seems, with this ruling from the FCC. Is that the kind of country that we want to live in? Is that the kind of society that we want to live in? I hope not. I hope enough of you were mandated to read 1984 in high school. You should probably reread it just in case it's been a hot minute. But I hope that we don't want to live in a society with a ministry of truth. I hope that we don't want to live in a society where one unelected bureaucrat has unilateral jurisdiction over whether or not you're even allowed to have access to the internet at all, let alone what you do on the internet. I'd hope that you don't want to have to provide your home address or maybe your social security number or every tiny personal detail about yourself to Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, who owns 90% of the internet, by the way. Amazon Web Services is the ISP, the internet service provider, that hosts almost every single website on the face of the planet. So you think he's not going to get your data? He already is. I'd hope that you don't want to live in that type of a chokehold, get in line, agree with the regime or else society. But that's where we're headed if we're unwilling to shake things up, to do something different for a new generation of leadership, to use social media to be real people again, to shine our authenticity rather than conform to the regime, to be fiercely independent, to think for ourselves, to have the freedom to even do so, rather than turn America into the CCP, which is ironically what we claim we're fighting against every single day. Again, I find it not coincidental at all that this vote from the FCC was happening on the same day that President Xi and Joe Biden are meeting in San Francisco. I also don't find it coincidental at all that they're in San Francisco, of all places, and not Washington, D.C. or even Delaware. I think there's a lot that's still happening behind the scenes that the average American isn't aware of, and we're not supposed to be aware of, because the powers that be are trying very, very desperately to keep us from being educated, to keep us from seeking the truth, to keep us from being aware of what's happening in our surroundings. We live in a really controlled ecosystem right now. And if we are unwilling to poke our heads above the sand, if we're unwilling to speak up now, if we're unwilling to change the tide of public opinion and change culture from the inside out, we're probably going to lose the opportunity to do so in a shockingly quick amount of time. That's my warning for you today. Hopefully we'll still have a stream tomorrow. Who knows at this point? But in the meantime, please do me a huge favor and like this episode so that other people can be aware of what's really happening behind the scenes today. That could look like a little thumbs up or a little heart. And follow or subscribe to this channel to help us grow these communities, to make sure other people have the opportunity to learn everything that they possibly can. We are going to jump over to Locals right now for our post-stream Q&A. We love Locals, and that is where we are supporting independent free creators all over the internet in a tightly controlled wild ecosystem that we find ourselves in. You guys are all invited to join us over in our locals community, where we have some great local specific content that only exists over there for you guys as well. YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, and Getter. Hopefully we'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. Now you guys have me all freaked out in the chat saying that my stream will be among the first to go. Rest in peace. But in the meantime, we'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. Locals, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.